As crimson light tore through the sky above the lands between, the Erd tree trembled, not with fear, for what could make such a divine construct fear, but with something far worse, confusion. Throughout countless cycles of death and rebirth, the Golden Order had maintained its design, even as tarnished rose and fell in their endless quest. But this was different. In the moments before it happened, ravens took flight from Stormvale's broken towers. The beasts of Kaled paused their relentless hunger. Even the eternal battles halted briefly as something impossible rent the very fabric of the world. They say the first sign was laughter, inappropriate, irreverent laughter, echoing across the Limgrave plains, startling the tree sentinels from their vigil. Then came the figure, falling from nowhere, red and black against the golden sky, crashing through branches and stone until finally coming to rest in a broken heap near the first step. The figure didn't move, not at first. Blood pooled beneath the strange armor, unlike any seen in these lands. No talisman's protection, no runes to guide him, just broken limbs and the strange, persistent chuckle that somehow continued despite what should have been fatal wounds. "Well," the figure finally spoke, pushing himself up as bones audibly snapped back into place. "That's gonna leave a mark. Or it would, if I didn't heal faster than a YouTuber's career after a fake apology video." The figure stood fully now, adjusting his mask and surveying the alien landscape before him. Soldiers in the distance raised their weapons. A tree sentinel turned its massive steed. And somewhere, deep within the metaphysical machinery of this world, algorithms began to shift, attempting to classify this new anomaly. Hello, beautiful new world that I definitely didn't consent to being transported to. The name's Deadpool. Wade Wilson if you're nasty, or my tax auditor. Speaking of which, if the IRS asks, I've been dead since Tuesday. The sentinel charged, golden halberd gleaming. Ooh, big guy on a horse. Original. Let me guess, you're the tutorial boss that's supposed to teach me humility by stomping me into the ground repeatedly. The halberd struck true, impaling the red-clad intruder and lifting him skyward. "Yep, that tracks," Deadpool gurgled, blood spilling from behind his mask as the sentinel shook him free, his body tumbling across the grass. "Man, that's smarts, like watching the Green Lantern director's cut levels of pain." The soldiers watched in horror as the seemingly dead intruder once again began to move, bones knitting, wounds closing. The sentinel, unmoved by such abnormalities, prepared another charge. "Hang on, Goldilocks, let me just—" Deadpool reached behind him, finding only empty air where his weapons should be. "Oh, come on. Interdimensional travel always loses my luggage. It's worse than Spirit Airlines." The Sentinel's second charge was faster, more determined. Deadpool barely rolled aside, the massive halberd cleaving the earth where he'd stood. "Okay, so we're doing this Dark Souls style. Got it. Dodge, parry, occasional gesture that somehow insults someone's entire bloodline." As he spoke, a dim blue light manifested nearby, a summon sign, though unlike any seen before. It pulsed with chaotic energy, as if the world itself was unsure what to make of this intruder. "What's this? Magical graffiti. A fantasy world QR code. Curiosity overriding caution." Deadpool touched the sign. Light engulfed him, and when it faded, twin katanas rested in his hands. Crude approximations of his usual weapons, but crafted from the logic of this new world. "Now we're talking. These will go great with my cosplay collection, right next to my foam Minecraft pickaxe and that one historically inaccurate lightsaber that makes the real nerds angry." The sentinel charged again, but this time Deadpool was ready. He leapt impossibly high, coming down on the golden helm with both blades. Sparks flew as metal met metal, and for the first time in perhaps centuries the tree sentinel staggered. "That's right. Who's your daddy? I assume it's some kind of tree god or something, given the whole aesthetic you've got going on." The battle continued, Deadpool's regeneration matching the Sentinel's relentless assaults. Each lethal blow healed almost instantly, though not without significant pain. "I have to say," Deadpool gasped after being cleaved nearly in half, "your healthcare system is terrible. No hospitals in sight, not even a shady back-alley doctor willing to patch me up for some mysterious currency I'll have to grind for hours." As the battle wore on, spectral figures began to appear, the ghostly echoes of other tarnished, watching in confusion as this red anomaly defied death again and again, all while maintaining a one-sided conversation with no one. "Oh, great, an audience. Hi, guys. Don't mind me, just experiencing the ultimate in immersive gaming." The pain feels so real because, fun fact, it absolutely is. With a final theatrical flourish, Deadpool severed the Sentinel's head from its shoulders. The massive body collapsed, dissolving into golden light as runes flowed into the victor. "Yes, first try. Nobody saw those other 17 attempts, right? No, great." Deadpool examined the glowing runes that swirled around him. "Okay, so these are either experience points, currency, or the souls of the damned. Given the general vibe of this place, I'm betting on option 3. The strange interaction caught the attention of forces beyond mortal comprehension. In her tower, Rani the witch paused her machinations, sensing the disruption. Melania stirred in her wrought bloom, feeling a presence that adhered to no known prophecy. And deep beneath Lendel, something ancient shifted in recognition of chaos newly introduced. Meanwhile, Deadpool approached the nearby Church of Ella, where a hooded figure sat watching. "Hey there, suspicious tutorial NPC. Got any cryptic advice that'll make absolutely no sense until I'm 50 hours in?" Kayla, the merchant, regarded the strange visitor with typical stoicism. "You are not tarnished, yet you walk these lands. Curious, not tarnished. I'm practically the definition of tarnished. Just ask anyone who's seen my moral compass. It's less of a compass and more of a roulette wheel, really. You seek the Erd tree, then, like all who come to these lands. Erd what now? Big glowy tree thing. Sure, why not? I usually go wherever the main quest line points me, or whichever direction has the coolest explosions." Kale nodded sagely. "Then you will need to gather great runes, defeat their bearers, and present yourself to the Erd tree." Great runes, defeat bearers, big tree, got it. Classic MacGuffin collection quest. Is there a convenient map with markers, or am I supposed to wander aimlessly while being murdered by the local wildlife? In answer, Kale offered a simple map of Limgrave. "Perfect. Now I just need a sassy companion with deep lore knowledge, preferably someone who'll die tragically mid-game to motivate my character development." As if in response, a golden light descended from above, manifesting into a spectral maiden with eyes sealed shut. "I am Melina. I offer you an accord." "An accord, like the car, because I'm more of a teleportation guy myself. Less carbon footprint." Melina's expression remained serene despite the nonsensical response. "I can guide you to the foot of the Erd tree in exchange for taking me there. Let me get this straight. You're offering to guide me to the place that you need me to take you to. That's like me offering to give someone directions to my house in exchange for a ride home. The Accord also grants you the ability to channel runes into strength." "Oh, leveling up. Why didn't you just say so?" "Sure, I accept your suspiciously convenient offer, mysterious lady who definitely won't betray me at a dramatically appropriate moment." With a gesture, Melina bestowed upon him the ability to convert runes into power. As she did, she paused, noticing something unusual. Your body, it rejects death itself. Not through grace, but through some other means. Yeah, it's called a healing factor. Side effect of a super soldier program run by guys who make Dr. Mengele look like Dr. Seuss. Long story short, can't die, constant pain, questionable mental stability, the usual superhero origin stuff. Melina seemed troubled. The laws of death are absolute in the lands between. Even the tarnished must die before returning through grace. Well, I've never been great with laws. Just ask the various international agencies with my face on their shoot-on-sight lists. As they spoke, darkness began to fall across Limgrave. Creatures stirred in the shadows, and the air grew heavy with menace. Night approaches, Melina warned. The field of battle shifts. Many horrors walk under darkness that hide during day. Night mode, got it? Probably means better loot but tougher enemies, right? Classic game design. Let me guess. There's also a special night boss that only appears during a full moon, when I've collected 7 chicken eggs and done a handstand. Rather than answer, Melina faded from view, leaving Deadpool alone with the encroaching darkness. In the distance, skeletal figures began to rise from the earth. Right, abandoned at the first sign of actual danger, some guide you turned out to be. Deadpool approached the rising skeletons, katanas at the ready. Hello, calcium-rich friends. I don't suppose you'd believe me if I said I'm just a particularly weird-looking tarnished. The skeletons attacked in unison, rusty swords slashing from multiple directions. Guess not. Can't blame you. The red suit does scream boss encounter more than protagonist. The battle was brief but instructive. Deadpool soon discovered that the skeletons reassembled themselves unless struck while attempting to reform. Oh, come on, you guys get to regenerate too. That's my whole shtick. Next, you'll tell me you're also breaking the fourth wall and making references nobody in this time period should understand. As the last skeleton crumbled permanently, Deadpool collected the glowing runes and continued his exploration. The distant castle loomed against the night sky, promising both danger and progress. I'm guessing that's where the first major boss lives, probably some guy who used to be important but got corrupted by power or grief or, I don't know, magical termites. The journey toward Stormvale Castle proved enlightening. Deadpool encountered tarnished spirits, strange beasts, and increasingly powerful foes. Each death, and there were many, was followed by an immediate resurrection, his body knitting itself back together regardless of how catastrophic the damage. You know, he mused after being eaten whole by a troll, only to cut his way out from inside. In my world, this regeneration thing makes me special. Here it just makes me slightly less inconvenienced than everyone else. What Deadpool didn't realize was how his presence was rippling through the lands between. His impossible existence, a being without grace yet unkillable, violated fundamental principles. The greater will itself grew aware of this anomaly, this error in reality's programming. Near the gates of Stormvale, Deadpool encountered a sight of grace, a convergence of golden light that seemed to call to him despite his lack of tarnished status. Ooh, a save point. Just what the doctor ordered. And by doctor, I mean the sadistic game designer who put 3 mini-bosses between checkpoints. As he rested at the grace, visions came to him. Fragmented glimpses of the world's history, of the shattering of demigods and their wars. But unlike the tarnished for whom such visions provided context and purpose, Deadpool received them as a chaotic jumble. So the big tree has daddy issues, some queen broke a ring, and now everyone's fighting over the pieces. Sounds like a fantasy version of a divorce proceeding. The golden light pointed toward the castle, indicating his path forward. Right, follow the convenient light breadcrumb trail to the next area. Gaming design hasn't changed much in centuries, has it? At the castle's entrance, a haggard gatekeeper watched his approach with suspicion. Another fool seeking glory in Stormvale. The arms of the grafted await you. Grafted! Like skin grafts, because I've had plenty of those, and let me tell you, they're not as fun as they sound. Especially when your healing factor keeps rejecting them, and you end up with patches of someone else's tattoos. The gatekeeper, Gostok, seemed taken aback by the strange visitor. You speak in riddles, Red One. Are you touched by madness? Touched by it. We're practically spooning at this point. So what's the deal with this castle? Big bad guy inside? Treasure? An unnecessarily complicated lever puzzle that'll make me question my life choices. Godric the Grafted rules here. A demigod, fallen to madness, collecting limbs to increase his power. A limb collector. Finally, someone who might appreciate my ability to regrow appendages. Though I'm guessing he's less interested in the regrowing part and more into the forcibly removing them from screaming victims aspect. Gostok pointed to a small side entrance. There is another way, less perilous perhaps. The classic obvious front door versus suspicious side entrance choice. Next you'll tell me there's also a sewer entrance that's disgusting but leads directly to the boss's bedroom. There is indeed a path through the waterway. Of course there is. After weighing his options, Deadpool chose the main entrance, partly out of bravado and partly because, as he put it, in these games, the obvious path usually has better loot drop rates. The castle interior proved to be a labyrinth of dangers, soldiers, knights, grotesque grafted monstrosities, and deadly environmental hazards. Deadpool died 14 times before reaching the inner courtyard, each resurrection accompanied by increasingly creative profanity. Whoever designed this place clearly had some serious architectural disagreements with basic safety standards. Would it kill them to install a single guardrail? Actually, don't answer that. It literally has killed me multiple times. In the courtyard, he encountered a knight unlike the others. A woman with red hair and a dignified bearing despite her battle-worn armor. You there? You're no tarnished I've ever seen. And you're clearly the important NPC who gives crucial information mid-dungeon character. Let me guess, tragic backstory, personal vendetta against the boss, and a quest line that's easily missable if I don't talk to you in exactly the right sequence. Nephili Lu regarded him with stern curiosity. Your manner is strange, but your instincts seem sound. I hunt Godric for the atrocities he's committed. See, called it vendetta. So, what's your deal? Revenge for a slain family member, righteous quest to end suffering, competitive limb collection rivalry. I am Nephili Lu, warrior by birth, here to challenge the grafted to honor my father's legacy. Cool, cool. I'm Wade Wilson, interdimensional traveler here because apparently the Cosmic Writers Room thought it would be hilarious to drop me into From Software's idea of a pleasant countryside getaway. Before their conversation could continue, a horn sounded from deeper within the castle. The ground trembled with heavy footsteps. That would be the hunting party, Nephili warned. Godric's collectors, seeking new limbs for their lord. Perfect timing. I was just thinking this conversation needed more imminent death to really keep the pacing tight. Around the corner lumbered a grotesque creation, a mass of limbs grafted together into a barely functional horror, wielding multiple weapons from its many arms. Okay, that is legitimately disturbing, and I once saw Logan wear jean shorts. The creature charged, and Deadpool met it with his katanas whirling. The battle was chaotic. with Nephili joining the fray, her axe cleaving through grafted flesh, while Deadpool darted between flailing limbs. "You know," Deadpool called over the sounds of combat, "where I come from, we have laws against this kind of thing, ethical committees, forms to sign in triplicate. When the grafted abomination finally fell, Deadpool retrieved something unexpected from its remains, a golden arm still pulsing with divine energy. Please tell me this isn't a collectible. I'm not starting an arm collection." That's how you end up with a castle full of body parts and a questionable interior decorating aesthetic. Nephili examined the arm with recognition. A piece of Godric's grafting. He takes the strongest limbs for himself, discarding those that displease him. So he's basically running a limb audition process. "Sorry, left leg, you didn't make the cut, but we loved your energy and encourage you to try again next severing season." The golden arm pulsed as if responding to Deadpool's touch. Something in the divine magic recognized the regenerative nature of its new holder, creating an unexpected resonance. "Is it supposed to be glowing like that? Because in my experience, glowing body parts are rarely a good sign unless you're at a very specific type of rave." As if in answer, the arm dissolved into golden light that flowed into Deadpool's katanas, imbuing them with a fragment of godly power. Okay, so it was a weapon upgrade. That's actually pretty standard game progression. I was expecting something more horrifying, like it trying to attach itself to me, which, to be clear, has happened before and was a whole thing with the X-Men for like 6 issues. Nephili nodded toward the path ahead. "Godric awaits beyond. Few who face him return. Good thing returning from certain death is literally my only consistent character trait. Well, that and an inappropriate sense of humor. And tacos. I really like tacos." The passage to Godric's domain narrowed, the walls increasingly decorated with limbs in various states of preservation, a grotesque gallery of the demigod's obsession. Deadpool approached the massive fog door that separated him from the first true test of this strange new world. "All right, let's see what this grafting enthusiast has to offer. Maybe he'll have some spare parts I can mail back to Wolverine as a souvenir." "Wish you were here" takes on a whole new meaning when attached to a severed arm. As Deadpool stepped through the fog, the true nature of the lands between and his role within it was about to become clearer, for while he thought himself merely trapped in another world, the truth was far more complex. The greater will had not simply allowed an anomaly. Somewhere in the cosmic architecture, a purpose existed for this chaotic element introduced to a breaking system. And beyond the fog, Godric waited, unaware that the red-clad warrior approaching him would bring change beyond any prophecy, a wild card in a game where even the gods played by established rules. The Crimson Mercenary stood at the precipice of Stormvale Castle, his mask rippling in the harsh winds as he surveyed the crumbling battlements ahead. Behind him lay a trail of carnage, dismembered Godric soldiers, their golden armor now dull with blood. "You know what they say about castles," Deadpool mused, twirling his katanas. "The bigger they are, the more dudes you get to impale on the way to the boss fight." The journey through Limgrave had been chaotic, even by Wade Wilson's standards. After his encounter with the Tree Sentinel, which ended with the Golden Horseman inexplicably losing his mount to what Deadpool called an impromptu rodeo situation, the Merc with a mouth had carved a path of destruction across the realm. Village maidens whispered of the Red Devil who fought with impossible weapons and spoke to invisible entities he called viewers and subscribers. Soldiers trembled at tales of his regenerative abilities. Some claimed he was a fragment of the greater will itself, sent to mock the very foundations of the lands between. Others simply called him annoying. "Honey, I'm home," Deadpool shouted as he kicked open the massive gates of Stormvale. The ancient hinges groaned in protest. Anyone here? Pizza delivery for Let me check my notes. Godric the Crafted. No, that's not right. Golden. Godric the Golden Shower. Gross. From the shadows, Gostok the gatekeeper watched with wide, disbelieving eyes. In all his years of guiding Tarnished to their deaths, he'd never seen one quite like this. Ah, there you are. Deadpool pointed at the hunched figure. You must be Igor or Renfield. Every castle needs a creepy servant with questionable loyalty. It's like architectural code or something. I am Gostok Traveler, the gatekeeper stammered. You seek to challenge Godric. There is a secret passage. Let me guess, Deadpool interrupted. You'll show me a secret path that's actually more dangerous than rob my corpse when I die. Classic NPC behavior. 5 stars for commitment to tropes, 0 stars for originality. Gostok's mouth fell open. How could you possibly— Look, Quasi-no-no, I've played enough video games to know the drill. The main gate's got the welcome party. The side entrance is probably crawling with those birds with swords for feet. Which, by the way, A+ creature design. Very nightmare-inducing, but I'm taking the express route. Before Gostok could respond, Deadpool had fired a grappling hook, seemingly materialized from nowhere, toward the highest tower of Stormvale. Parkour! He screamed as he zipped upward, leaving the bewildered gatekeeper below. Inside the castle's great hall, Godric the Grafted sensed an unfamiliar presence breaching his domain. Unlike the typical Tarnished who arrived bearing the guidance of grace, this entity moved with chaotic purpose, leaving a wake of confusion in his path. Miserable little creatures, Godric growled to his attendants, his many grafted limbs twitching with anticipation. Prepare the defenses. Let the winds of Stormvale tear this one asunder. Meanwhile, Deadpool was having the time of his life swinging from gargoyle to gargoyle along the castle's exterior. You know what this place needs, he called out to no one in particular. Some throw pillows, maybe a nice area rug. Really tie the murder castle together. As he landed on a balcony, a massive axe swung toward his head. Deadpool ducked, the blade missing him by inches and embedding itself in the stone wall. Rude, he exclaimed, facing a towering knight in heavy armor. I was in the middle of my interior decorating monologue. The knight yanked his weapon free and advanced again. Deadpool sighed dramatically. All right, fine, let's dance, Tin Man. What followed was less a battle and more a bizarre performance art piece. Deadpool slid between the knight's legs, popped up behind him, and began using the heavily armored warrior as a makeshift surfboard down the grand staircase of Stormvale's main hall. Cowabunga! He shouted, standing atop the helplessly sliding knight. This is way better than the gondolas in Venice, though equally overpriced, am I right? The knight crashed into a group of soldiers at the bottom of the stairs, creating a pile of groaning, disoriented defenders. Strike! Deadpool pumped his fist. That's a 7-10 split if I ever saw one. The commotion drew more guards, their weapons raised as they surrounded the intruder. Look at all of you, Deadpool cooed. So coordinated in your matching outfits. Did you guys call each other this morning to plan this? Hey, what are you wearing to the dismemberment today? Golden armor with a red cape. OMG, me too. One brave soldier lunged forward. Deadpool sidestepped, tripping the man with casual ease. You know what your problem is? He asked the gathering crowd. You're all so serious, this whole land is just doom and gloom, and ooh, the Erd tree is burning, and the demigods are fighting. No, have you tried yoga? Maybe a hobby. Scrapbooking is very therapeutic. The soldiers exchanged confused glances, their training having never prepared them for an opponent who wouldn't stop talking. Taking advantage of their hesitation, Deadpool broke into a sprint, diving through a nearby window and tumbling into a lower courtyard. He landed face first in a puddle, then sprang up, arms raised triumphantly. Perfect 10 from the East Lothric judge, but the Kaled representative only gives it a 6. 5, harsh but fair. As he wrung the water from his mask, Deadpool noticed a strange figure watching him from the shadows. Unlike the soldiers, this one moved with fluid grace, her face obscured by a porcelain mask. "Well, hello there," Deadpool called out. "Has anyone ever told you that you've got real main character energy? Very mysterious, very cool. Love the mask, by the way. We could start a club." Melina stepped forward, her visible eyes studying the strange tarnished with cautious interest. "You move through this realm like one unburdened by its laws," she observed. "What purpose drives you to Godric's door?" "Purpose? Honey, I'm just here for the chaos and the loot drops." Deadpool spun one of his katanas playfully. "Plus, I heard this Godric guy has a serious body modification addiction. And as someone who's been through some extensive remodeling myself, I thought we could swap tips. Exfoliate or die, am I right?" Melina's expression remained impassive, but something like amusement flickered in her visible eye. "The demigod ahead is no mere obstacle to be mocked," she warned. "Godric has grafted the strength of countless warriors to himself. He will not fall to your unusual techniques." "Unusual? Me?" Deadpool pressed a hand to his chest in mock offense. "I'm just a simple mercenary with unmatched regenerative abilities, fourth wall awareness, and a tendency to turn serious narrative moments into extended punchlines, tale as old as time." Melina tilted her head slightly. "You speak in riddles that echo beyond this realm. Story of my life, sister. Or my death, or my undeath. It's complicated." Deadpool shrugged. "So are you the tutorial NPC, the love interest? Or the secretly evil but we don't find out until the third act character? I like to know what trope I'm working with." Before Melina could answer, a thunderous roar shook the courtyard. The stones beneath their feet trembled as heavy footsteps approached. "That would be my cue," Deadpool said cheerfully. "The mini-boss battle before the main event. Classic pacing." Around the corner lumbered a grafted scion, its multiple arms wielding an array of weapons that glinted menacingly in the dim light. "Holy body horror, Batman!" Deadpool exclaimed. "Someone took the more hands, the merrier way too literally." The abomination charged, its movements a blur of blades and limbs. Deadpool dodged the first flurry of attacks, sliding underneath the creature and popping up on the other side. "Too slow, Dr. Octopus. I've fought guys with twice as many arms and half the coordination." The scion spun with surprising agility, one of its swords catching Deadpool across the chest. Blood sprayed from the wound, but even as the fabric of his suit tore, the flesh beneath began knitting itself back together. "How rude!" Deadpool looked down at the damage. "Do you have any idea how much it costs to repair these suits? The superhero tailor union rates are through the roof." Drawing both katanas, Deadpool launched into a whirlwind of his own making. His blades became indistinguishable from one another as he darted in and out of the scion's reach, severing limbs and deflecting attacks with impossible precision. This is like that game, what was it called, Fruit Ninja, except instead of fruit, it's extra appendages, and instead of a high score, I get to not be turned into a human pincushion. Same energy, though. With each cut, the scion grew more frantic, its attacks wilder and less coordinated. Deadpool, despite his constant chatter, moved with deadly purpose, gradually reducing the monster to a stumbling, lopsided version of its former self. "And now for my finishing move," Deadpool announced, leaping high into the air. "I call this one the Deadpool Special Extra Spicy Edition." He landed on the scion's shoulders, wrapped his legs around its neck, and began spinning his entire body while slashing outward with both katanas. The maneuver, physically impossible by any normal standard, turned him into a living buzzsaw that separated the creature's head from its body in a fountain of gore. Landing gracefully as the scion collapsed, Deadpool took a theatrical bow. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Try the Estus flask, and don't forget to tip your maidens. Melina, who had observed the entire battle from a safe distance, approached with newfound respect in her gaze. You fight like no tarnished I've ever encountered, she admitted. Perhaps you truly could challenge Godric. Challenge, sweetie, I'm gonna turn him into the world's ugliest jigsaw puzzle. Deadpool wiped his blades clean on what remained of the scion. But first, I need to know, is there a checkpoint around here? A bonfire? A statue of a lady with her eyes gouged out? The usual saving mechanics. Before Melina could answer, a new voice interrupted them. Well, what manner of tarnished are you? From the shadows emerged a tall, elegant figure wearing elaborate golden armor and carrying a spear that crackled with lightning. Kenneth Haight, heir to the ancient dynasty of Limgrave, the man announced with practiced grandeur. I've been observing your progress through Stormvale with great interest. Hey there, Kenny, Deadpool waved enthusiastically. Love the drip. Very royal guy who's probably going to send me on a fetch quest chic. Kenneth Haight's pompous expression faltered. That's not. I am Kenneth Haight, rightful ruler of... Yeah, heard you the first time, Your Majesty. Deadpool casually draped an arm around the nobleman's shoulders. Let me guess, you want me to defeat Godric, restore you to power, and in return, you'll give me some middling reward that'll be obsolete by the time I reach the next area. Sound about right? Kenneth sputtered indignantly, trying to extricate himself from Deadpool's familiar embrace. The audacity, the reward I offer is the gratitude of a noble house that has stood for generations, the restoration of proper rule to Limgrave. So, no actual useful items then, no legendary weapons, no skill points. Deadpool sighed dramatically. Fine, I'll add it to my quest log. But just so you know, side quests are strictly lower priority than the main storyline and cool armor sets. As Kenneth continued to protest, Melina stepped forward, her presence immediately commanding attention. The path to Godric lies ahead, she said, pointing toward a massive doorway at the far end of the courtyard. Beyond that threshold, you will find the grafted lord in his chamber. Few who enter return. Story of my dating life, Deadpool quipped. All right, folks, it's boss battle time. Kenny, you might want to wait here. Melina, feel free to provide cryptic encouragement from a safe distance. That's kind of the NPC way, isn't it? Without waiting for a response, Deadpool strode confidently toward the fog gate, katanas spinning in his hands. Knock, knock, Godric. The deadliest pool party in the multiverse is coming your way. As he passed through the threshold, the mist enveloped him, and the sounds of the courtyard faded away. Before him stretched a massive arena, littered with the dismembered remains of previous challengers. At its center stood Godric the Grafted, a grotesque mountain of flesh and stolen limbs, his many arms clutching weapons of every description. Lowly tarnished, Godric's voice boomed across the chamber. Playing as a lord, I command thee kneel. Deadpool stopped in his tracks, tilted his head, and then burst into uncontrollable laughter. Oh my God, your voice! He wheezed, doubling over. You sound like you gargled with gravel, and then chased it with a whiskey battery acid cocktail. Please tell me you do cartoon villain voiceovers on the side. You'd make a killing. Godric's face contorted with rage, his grafted appendages twitching violently. "Insolent whelp! I am Godric the Golden, scion of the great Godfrey. These arms I've grafted will crush your impudent spirit. First of all," Deadpool countered, straightening up, "there's nothing golden about you except maybe your shower habits. Second, whelp. Really, what century are we in? And third, he pointed accusingly at Godric's collection of arms. That is some serious overcompensation, buddy. Have you considered therapy instead of surgery?" With a roar of pure fury, Godric launched himself forward, dozens of weapons slashing through the air where Deadpool had stood only moments before, but the merc with a mouth was already moving, flipping overhead and landing lightly on the demigod's back. "Giddy up, Octodad, let's see if all those arms make you better at rodeo." What followed was less a battle and more a humiliating circus act, with Godric as the unwilling main attraction. Deadpool danced between the demigod's wild attacks, occasionally stopping to pose dramatically or offer commentary on Godric's technique. "Swing and a miss, that's strike three. You know what they say, the more arms you have, the harder they fall." As Godric grew more enraged, his attacks became more desperate. Fire erupted from his grafted dragon head, engulfing the arena in flames. "Whoa, hot, hot, hot!" Deadpool yelped, parts of his suit smoldering as he rolled to extinguish himself. "Nobody mentioned fire breath. That's definitely not in the terms and conditions I didn't read." Despite the burns, Deadpool's flesh healed almost instantly, much to Godric's mounting horror. "What manner of abomination are you?" the demigod demanded, backing away for the first time. "No tarnished possesses such power. Abomination, that's hurtful." Deadpool clutched his chest in mock pain. "I prefer chimera of questionable medical ethics or regenerative miracle of modern science. Much more PC." Taking advantage of Godric's momentary confusion, Deadpool launched a flurry of attacks that severed three of the demigod's grafted arms in quick succession. "Look on the bright side," he quipped as Godric howled in agony. "Now you only need to buy like 15 gloves instead of 18. Think of the savings." As the battle raged on, a crowd began to gather at the edges of the arena, soldiers, servants, and even Kenneth Haight himself, all watching in stunned silence as the red-clad warrior systematically dismantled their lord with equal parts lethal skill and absurd commentary. "This is getting boring," Deadpool announced after removing yet another limb. "Let's wrap this up. I've got a whole map to explore, and I'm pretty sure there's a hot springs area somewhere I don't want to miss." Drawing both katanas, he charged directly at Godric's center mass, weaving through the remaining arms with impossible agility. "Hey, Godric!" he called as he closed in for the kill. "Knock, knock." Despite himself, the demigod responded, "Who's there?" "Interrupting katana. Interrupting cat." Deadpool's blades plunged into Godric's chest, cutting off both his words and his life. The demigod's eyes widened in shock, then dimmed as he slumped forward. "Boom!" Deadpool exclaimed, yanking his weapons free and performing an elaborate victory dance. That's how it's done in the Deadpool universe, folks. Remember to like and subscribe for more demigod takedowns. As Godric's body dissolved into golden light, revealing the great rune within, Deadpool casually picked it up and examined it. "Neat! Does this go in a skill tree, or is it more of a collectible?" He shrugged, pocketing the rune. "I'll figure it out later. Probably need to find a wiki." The onlookers remained frozen in disbelief as Deadpool sauntered toward the exit, whistling a jaunty tune and twirling his bloodied katanas. "So," he called back to the stunned crowd, "who wants to tell me where I can find the nearest site of grace? And maybe point me toward the next main quest marker. I'm thinking something with even more arms or legs. Variety is the spice of death, after all. Behind him, the legend of the Crimson Tarnished was already beginning to spread throughout the lands between, carried on whispers of fear, awe, and utter bewilderment. The age of fracture had met its match in the age of Deadpool, and the lands between would never be the same. In the fading light of evening, the Erd tree glowed with an ethereal luminescence that seemed to pulse with growing intensity. The grand capital of Leyndell had fallen eerily silent, as if the very stones held their breath in anticipation of what was to come. Deadpool stood before the massive golden doors that led to the Queen's bedchamber, his suit tattered and scorched, but his resolve undiminished. Behind him lay a path of destruction, defeated demigods, slain beasts, and more than a few thoroughly confused NPCs who couldn't comprehend his fourth wall-breaking quips. "So this is it," he muttered, adjusting the shards of the great runes that now adorned his belt like grotesque trophies. "The final boss fight. I'm guessing there's no checkpoint right before the door." "No, fine. Typical FromSoft design." With a dramatic heave, he pushed open the doors, and the chamber beyond was vast and opulent, bathed in golden light that seemed to emanate not from any torch or window, but from the very walls themselves. And there, at the center, sat Queen Marika, suspended in a crucified pose, her body both whole and shattered simultaneously, existing in a paradoxical state of divine punishment. "Okay, this is getting weird even by my standards," Deadpool remarked, stepping cautiously forward. "And I once had a story arc where I killed the entire Marvel Universe, so that's saying something." As he approached, the figure stirred. The fragments of the divine body began to shift and reassemble, and in a blinding flash, Queen Marika was whole once more, but only for an instant. Her form shimmered and changed, becoming that of a golden-armored warrior with flowing hair, Radagon of the Golden Order. "2 health bars," Deadpool groaned. "Of course there are 2 health bars." Radagon raised his massive hammer, and the battle began. The chamber erupted with golden energy as the Elden Lord unleashed devastating attacks. Deadpool dodged and weaved, his regeneration factor working overtime as he occasionally failed to avoid the crushing blows. "You know," he called out between frantic rolls, "most people just use a divorce lawyer. This whole literally becoming 2 people thing seems a bit extreme." The fight was brutal. Radagon moved with a grace that belied his size, each swing of his hammer creating shockwaves of golden energy that rippled through the chamber. Deadpool relied on the techniques he'd learned throughout his journey, using the power of the great runes he'd collected to enhance his already formidable abilities. After what seemed like hours of combat, with Deadpool reduced to a regenerating pile of meat more times than he could count, Radagon finally fell to one knee, golden light spilling from 1,000 wounds. "Wow, that was intense," Deadpool panted, leaning on his swords for support. "But I've got to say, your hammer technique needs work. Have you considered taking classes? I hear Thor runs a workshop on Thursdays." Before Radagon could respond, his form began to disintegrate, golden particles floating upward and dissipating into nothingness. The chamber grew darker, and a rumbling shook the very foundations of the Erd tree. "I'm going to guess this isn't the good ending," Deadpool muttered, glancing around nervously. From the emptiness where Radagon had been, a new presence emerged. A vast, amorphous thing that seemed to be composed of stars and cosmic energy. The Elden beast, primordial avatar of the greater will, coalesced into reality. "Oh, come on!" Deadpool shouted. 3 health bars, that's just sadistic game design." The Elden beast roared, a sound that wasn't heard so much as felt, resonating through Deadpool's entire being. The chamber expanded impossibly, the walls falling away to reveal what appeared to be the cosmos itself, an endless sea of stars stretching in all directions. "Space whale," Deadpool muttered, drawing his swords once more. "I'm fighting a space whale. Sure, why not? Makes about as much sense as anything else in this game's lore." The battle that followed defied description. The Elden beast moved through space like water, appearing and disappearing at will, unleashing attacks that bent reality itself. Golden runes the size of buildings crashed down around Deadpool as he frantically dodged, slashed, and quipped his way through the cosmic assault. "This is exactly why I prefer street-level heroics," he shouted as he narrowly avoided a beam of pure golden energy that would have disintegrated him completely. "Give me a drug dealer with a switchblade any day." But Deadpool had not come this far to fail. Drawing on every trick, technique, and power-up he had acquired throughout his journey through the lands between, he launched a final desperate assault on the cosmic entity. His blades, now infused with the power of multiple great runes, cut through the Elden beast's otherworldly flesh. With a final reality-shaking cry, the Elden beast began to dissolve, its vast form collapsing in on itself until nothing remained but a single pulsing point of light, the Elden ring itself. Deadpool approached cautiously, sword still at the ready. "So, do I just take it? Is there a ceremony? Do I need to fill out paperwork?" As if in response, the light expanded, enveloping him completely. Visions flashed through his mind, possible futures, branching paths, the different endings that awaited him based on his choices. He could restore the Golden Order, usher in an age of stars with Rani, embrace the fiery chaos of the frenzied flame, or choose from several other destinies. "Wait, hold up," Deadpool said, somehow speaking within the vision itself. "These are all the standard endings. Where's the Deadpool ending? I want the one where I get to rewrite this whole world with maximum fourth wall breakage." The light pulsed, as if confused by this request. "Look," Deadpool continued, "I've played enough games to know how this works. You become the new god or whatever. You get to reshape reality according to your vision. Well, my vision involves a lot of chimichangas and significantly less getting repeatedly murdered by giant crabs." The light pulsed again, more urgently this time. "Fine. I'll do it myself." With that, Deadpool reached out and grasped the essence of the Elden Ring itself. Power beyond comprehension flooded through him, threatening to tear him apart atom by atom. But his regeneration factor, combined with his unique meta-awareness, allowed him to withstand it, to shape it to his will. Reality began to warp and shift. The cosmic void around him started to fragment, revealing glimpses of something beyond pixels, code, the underlying structure of the game world itself. "Oh yeah, now we're talking," Deadpool grinned beneath his mask. "Let's see what happens when we add a little chaos to the system." With a gesture that was part benediction and part obscene hand signal, Deadpool released the power he had contained, sending it rippling outward through the fabric of the lands between. The effects were immediate and bizarre. In Limgrave, gravity suddenly reversed itself. Sheep and soldiers alike floated helplessly upward, bleating and cursing in equal measure. In Liurnia, the lake waters turned to melted cheese, trapping boats and creating what would later be described as the world's largest fondue party. In Caelid, the landscape actually improved, as the scarlet rot was replaced with fields of blooming flowers. The locals were deeply confused by this development. In the underground city of Nokron, all the enemies suddenly gained the ability to speak, but could only quote lines from 90s sitcoms. And throughout the entire realm, a new law of physics took hold. Any enemy that performed an unnecessarily elaborate wind-up attack would immediately trip and fall, taking critical damage. Back in what had once been Marika's chamber, Deadpool hovered in mid-air, now glowing with divine power and wearing what appeared to be a cardboard crown with Elden Lord for real written on it in marker. "This is going great," he exclaimed, "but it feels like we're still missing something." With another thought, he opened a series of portals throughout the lands between, connecting the realm to countless other universes and dimensions. Through these rifts poured an assortment of characters from across the multiverse, superheroes, villains, characters from other video games, and more than a few confused pizza delivery drivers. "Now that's what I call New Game Plus." Deadpool nodded, satisfied with his work. As the newly rewritten reality settled into place, Deadpool descended to what was now a floor made entirely of bouncy castle material. He surveyed his kingdom with pride. "I think this calls for a speech," he announced to no one in particular. Clearing his throat, he began, "Friends, Romans, countrymen, and whatever those giant ball things in Noxtella are, lend me your ears. Actually, don't. That's gross. Just listen up. As your new Elden Lord, I promise to rule with justice, mercy, and an inappropriate amount of fourth wall breaks. Tax rates will remain the same, but taxes will now be collected in the form of compliments to my outfit. All mandatory poison swamps are hereby replaced with ball pits, and boss fights will now include a mandatory dance-off portion, which you can opt to use instead of traditional combat. Also, I'm instituting Taco Tuesday. That's non-negotiable." As Deadpool continued his proclamation, the lands between adjusted to its new reality. Some embraced the chaos, others resisted it, but all had to admit that getting repeatedly murdered by the local wildlife was happening significantly less often. Melina, who had somehow survived despite Deadpool completely ignoring her quest line, approached the new Elden Lord with a mixture of confusion and resignation. "This isn't exactly what I had in mind when I sought a tarnish to restore the Elden Ring," she said. "Yeah, well, that's what happens when you pick up random hitchhikers," Deadpool shrugged. "Sometimes you get a stoic hero who follows the script. Sometimes you get whatever I am. Speaking of which, what am I in this world? Am I still Deadpool? Am I tarnished? Am I a god now?" The character creation menu in this game was not clear. Melina sighed deeply. "You're whatever you want to be. That seems to be how things work now." "Excellent." Deadpool clapped his hands together. "In that case, I'm officially changing my title from Elden Lord to Supreme Pizza of the known universe. It has a better ring to it." As the newly christened Supreme Pizza settled into his role, strange reports began to filter in from across the realm. The boundaries between worlds were growing thinner. Characters and concepts that had no place in the world of Elden Ring were beginning to manifest with increasing frequency. In Stormvale Castle, guards reported that the grafted arms of Godric the Grafted had been replaced with various household appliances, including a waffle iron and a cordless drill. In Madgelmir, the lava had mysteriously transformed into hot sauce, resulting in what Volcano Manor residents described as the spiciest tarnished hunt ever. And most concerning of all, sightings of a purple-skinned titan wielding a golden gauntlet had been reported near the Halig tree. Muttering something about balance and asking locals if they knew where he could find 6 magical stones. Deadpool, however, was unconcerned by these developments. In fact, he encouraged them, regularly opening new portals to see what would come through. "It's like a cosmic grab bag," he explained to a thoroughly bewildered Blade. "You never know what you're gonna get." But even as he reveled in the chaos he had created, a small part of Deadpool the part that had occasionally, against his better judgment, done heroic things in his home universe, began to wonder if perhaps he had gone too far. And the lands between had been a brutal, unforgiving place, yes, but it had also possessed a certain dark beauty, a melancholic grandeur that his reality-warping antics were rapidly erasing. This moment of introspection was interrupted by the arrival of a familiar figure, Sir Gideon Ofnir, the all-knowing, though he now sported sunglasses and a t-shirt that read, "Actually only knows like 60% of things." "Oh, hey, it's Exposition Guy," Deadpool greeted him cheerfully. "Come to drop some lore on me. Maybe explain why everyone in this game speaks in riddles instead of just telling me where to go." Gideon's expression was grave. "The fabric of our reality cannot sustain these changes much longer," he said. "The greater will and the other outer gods are displeased with your innovations." "Pfft, what are they gonna do, fire me? I've got the Elden ring. I am the management now." "It's not that simple," Gideon insisted. "The outer gods exist beyond even the ring's influence. They are the architects of the systems you're now corrupting, and they have ways of patching out anomalies." As if on cue, the sky above them rippled strangely, pixelating briefly before resolving back into clarity. "Okay, that didn't look good," Deadpool admitted. "What was that?" "The first warning," Gideon replied. "The next will be more substantial." Deadpool considered this information, tapping his chin thoughtfully. "So you're saying the actual game developers are getting annoyed with my shenanigans and might delete me from the game? Harsh but fair." "I don't understand half the words you use," Gideon sighed. "But essentially, yes. Your presence here is being rejected by the very code that forms our world." "Well, we can't have that," Deadpool said. "I've put too much effort into redecorating this place. Plus, I've scheduled a three-legged race between Radon and his horse for next Tuesday, and I really want to see how that turns out." With a theatrical crack of his knuckles, Deadpool closed his eyes and concentrated, reaching once more for the power of the Elden ring that now resided within him. He extended his awareness beyond the boundaries of the game world, searching for the source of the disturbance. What he found shocked even him, a vast, incomprehensible space of pure creation, where beings of unimaginable power shaped and reshaped entire universes with casual keystrokes and lines of code. The game developers, in their unknowable wisdom, were indeed preparing to remove his anomalous presence from their carefully crafted world. "Oh, no, you don't," Deadpool muttered, pushing his consciousness even further. "I didn't suffer through millennia's waterfowl dance 17 times just to get deleted now." With a supreme effort of will, he reached into the very code of the game itself and made one final crucial change. He wrote himself into the deepest level of the program, making his existence fundamental to the entire system. If they wanted to remove him now, they'd have to scrap the whole game. Back in the lands between, Deadpool opened his eyes with a satisfied grin. "Problem solved. I've made myself essential to the operating system. Like that paperclip assistant from old Microsoft Word, but with swords and better one-liners." Gideon looked skeptical. "And you believe this will appease the outer gods?" "Appease them? No. Force them to put up with me, absolutely." As if in response to his boast, the world around them shuddered violently. The sky fractured like glass, revealing glimpses of pure code behind the rendered reality. NPCs throughout the realm froze in place, some in mid-sentence, others in impossible positions, as their animation cycles broke down. "Okay," Deadpool admitted, "they might be taking this worse than I expected." The tremors intensified. Buildings began to distort, stretching impossibly before snapping back into shape. The very rules of the game world seemed to be unraveling. Enemies ignored their programmed behavior, objects clipped through solid surfaces, and in some areas the textures disappeared entirely, revealing the wireframe models beneath. "They're trying to force a system reset," Gideon explained, his voice distorting as his character model began to glitch. "They would rather destroy the entire build than allow your corruption to spread." Deadpool looked around at the disintegrating world, at the chaos he had unleashed in his selfish desire to remake the game in his own image. For perhaps the first time since arriving in the lands between, he felt something approaching regret. "Well, crap," he muttered. "I didn't mean to break everything. Just the unfair parts, and the boring parts. And the parts that didn't have enough jokes about butts." Another violent tremor shook the world, and Deadpool made his decision. With a resigned sigh, he once again reached for the power of the Elden Ring, but this time with a different purpose. Rather than fighting against the system, he would work with it. He would restore the natural order, or at least a close approximation of it. "Attention, residents of the lands between," he announced, his voice echoing impossibly across the entire realm. "Due to circumstances beyond my control, namely angry game developers with delete keys, I regret to inform you that all the cool stuff I added is about to be reversed. The cheese lake, the anti-gravity zones, the singing trees, all of it has to go. I know it's a tragedy. Feel free to write angry letters to From Software." With that, he began the process of undoing his changes, carefully extracting his code from the game's fundamental systems while preserving enough of his unique nature to prevent complete deletion. It was delicate work, requiring a precision that Deadpool rarely exhibited in his normal life. Gradually, the world began to stabilize. The sky healed itself, buildings returned to their proper dimensions, and NPCs resumed their programmed routines. The portals to other universes closed one by one, though not before Deadpool managed to push several pizza delivery drivers back through to their own reality, with generous tips. As the last of his major alterations faded away, Deadpool found himself once more in the chamber at the heart of the Erd Tree, though the Elden Ring was no longer in his possession. Instead, it hung suspended in the air before him, waiting for a decision. "So," he said to the ring, "I guess this is where I choose one of those standard endings after all, huh? No more custom Deadpool ending with roller coasters and taco stands." The ring pulsed gently, as if in confirmation. "Fine," Deadpool sighed, "but I'm not happy about it." After careful consideration that lasted approximately 3 seconds, Deadpool reached out and selected his ending. Not the Age of Order, nor the Age of Stars, nor even the chaotic frenzied flame, but a new path that opened before him, one that the developers had perhaps never intended but that the game now offered, the Age of Return. The Elden Ring flared brilliantly, and Deadpool felt himself being pulled away from the world of Elden Ring, back through the barriers between realities, heading home to his own universe. "Well, it's been fun, Lands Between," he called out as he began to fade. "Sorry about the whole nearly destroying reality thing. No hard feelings, right? Right. Oh, and if anyone finds my left boot near the Holig Tree, just keep it. Consider it a souvenir." As the last traces of his presence vanished from the game world, system stability returned to normal. The outer gods, appeased by the restoration of order, withdrew their threat of total reset. The lands between continued on, much as they had before. Brutal, beautiful, and utterly unforgiving. But stories began to spread throughout the realm, tales of a strange red-clad warrior who had briefly ruled as Elden Lord and brought both chaos and laughter to a world sorely lacking in the latter. Some dismissed these as mere legends, the kind of myths that always spring up in the wake of great calamities. Others insisted they had personally witnessed his bizarre reign, and in certain remote corners of the map, If players looked very carefully, they might notice small remnants of Deadpool's influence that had escaped the Purge, a merchant selling authentic Supreme Pizza memorabilia, a spirit ash that summoned a confused pizza delivery person, or rare enemy dialogue that made oddly specific references to Marvel comics. Meanwhile, across the multiverse, Deadpool crashed unceremoniously back into his own reality, landing face first on the floor of his apartment. Groaning, he rolled over and stared at the ceiling. "Next time," he muttered to himself, "I'm asking to be inserted into Stardew Valley instead. At least there, the worst thing that can kill you is social awkwardness at the town dance." Reaching for his phone, he dialed a familiar number. "Weasel, yeah, it's me. You are not gonna believe where I've been. Get the guys together at Sister Margaret's. This story's gonna take at least 3 rounds of drinks to tell properly." As he hung up, Deadpool couldn't help but smile beneath his mask. Sure, his time as Elden Lord had been brief and ultimately reversed, but it had certainly been memorable, and who knew? Perhaps someday, when the developers were distracted, he might find his way back to the lands between for a sequel. Deadpool enters Elden Ring 2, Electric Boogaloo, he mused. I like the sound of that.